We are back. Karen Friedman, Agnifilo here to lead our coverage because the Trump criminal trial is back after a brief break caused by the Memorial Day holiday. This is the week, Karen, a summation to take place this week, which is closing arguments that will take place this week. That will take place today, in just a little bit. The jury will get the case today, I believe, to start deliberations, which means, and I don't think either of us expect there to be a verdict today, but in theory, a verdict could be any moment after the jury gets the case. Obviously, you'll go through the process, Karen, with all of the legal AFers on what that's going to look like. But in theory, there could be a verdict later today if the jury gets the case, which we expect them to, short of anything extraordinary or strange happening in terms of any types of delays. And then will there be deliberations, Karen, on Wednesday? I want to hear from you there because normally court's been dark on Wednesday. Do we expect the jury will be deliberating on Wednesday? Seems that there's at least probability that we will get a verdict, this week, after there will be 3.5 days of full deliberations taking place this week. But Karen, maybe walk us through first off what a summation is first. Is there any other housekeeping items that need to be dealt with this morning before summation? So housekeeping items, summations, and then when the jury gets the case, what does that mean? What do we expect them to do? Let's start there, Karen.
Yeah, so I suspect that there's going to be this morning some more discussion about jury charge and a few issues that they may want to resolve. So I do think that the defense and the prosecution are going to maybe continue to discuss what charges they want submitted to the jury or what they don't want done. Now that the judge has said what he plans on doing, I am sure somebody has some request from over the weekend. So I do think that is going to potentially take place this morning, and then will come summations fairly quickly. Summations are the same as closing arguments. It's the same, two different words for the same thing. And a closing argument is just that. It's an argument. It's not evidence. And the judge will tell the jury that it's an argument and not evidence. And as a result, you're not allowed to, like the jury can't have quote unquote read back of summations. So once they have the case, and they're deliberating, they're allowed to ask for readback of testimony of any witness, the direct, the cross, portion of the testimony, whatever they want, they can ask for. They can see all the evidence that was introduced into evidence, but they can't, for example, see exhibits that weren't introduced into evidence, or they can't have the summations read back, even if that's something they want. So it's an opportunity for each side to give their argument about what they believe the evidence showed, and to really try to demonstrate to the jury that they have that either the prosecution has proven each and every element beyond a reasonable doubt or has not. And so they will craft their arguments, and they will give them. I suspect one theme that you're going to hear is that I think the prosecution is going to say, look, yeah, Michael Cohen is definitely somebody who has pluses and minuses to his history. And so they're going to point out how every important thing he says is corroborated, which it is. And all of the things he says that link Donald Trump to this case is corroborated. And it's, to me, if I have to give you my decades worth of trial experience opinion, it would be that the prosecution is without a doubt proven this case beyond a reasonable doubt, 100%, without any doubt, that Michael Cohen committed this these crimes along with his co-conspirator, Alan Weisselberg, and the third co-conspirator is Donald Trump, that this is what the trial has been about, is proving that he has been part of it as well. And that's what the jury has to decide. And so that's another theme, I think, that you'll hear from the prosecution, is there's no doubt there was a crime. I mean, Michael Cohen pled guilty to a crime. He served prison time. Alan Weisselberg is in prison. And the feds prosecuted this case, right, against Michael Cohen. So there is a crime here, and it's just, was Donald Trump part of it? Did he make or cause any false business entries to occur? Was it in furtherance of or to conceal another crime? And that's what the whole trial has been about. It's not whether there was a crime, it's whether Donald Trump was part of the crime. And I think that's another theme you're going to hear a lot about in summations. And I also think we're going to hear that the prosecution will say it doesn't matter whether Donald Trump actually had an affair with Stormy Daniels or not, right? It's irrelevant. The point is he paid her, and he paid her for hush money the way he did Karen McDougal, as well as the doorman who was peddling a fake story about a love child. But I think you'll hear the prosecution, we will hear the prosecution say, look, we think it happened because he pays more for real things than things that didn't happen, because the fake doorman story got only like $20,000, whereas the Karen McDougal got $150,000 and Stormy Daniels got $130,000. So just sort of interesting what Donald Trump, how he calculates these things. So I think we're going to really just, the prosecution will tie it all together, but they go second in summations. The defense goes first, and they give their whole argument about why they think the prosecution did not prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. I hear that Todd Blanche is giving the summation on behalf of Donald Trump, and I think you're going to hear them say that he had nothing to do with it. He was busy being president. This is Michael Cohen went rogue, and that's what I suspect that summation is going to be largely of. I think we'll hear a very common defense argument, which is if your father or your child their life was hanging in the balance, would you trust the words of Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels to make a very important decision in their life? And if the answer is no, then you have to afford that same thing to Donald Trump. So I'm sure they'll use that argument. These are just arguments that different people use. So they'll go first, and then the prosecution will go next. They may take the whole day. If I were to guess, I'd say the defense will take the whole morning. And then the prosecution will go after lunch. Lunch is from 1 to 2:15, and I also think the prosecution may go into Wednesday, part of their summation, because I think they're going to have a lot to say. Summations can take a while, and then after summations comes the jury charge, where 80% of the jury charge is the same for every case. It's things like the presumption of innocence. Every defendant is presumed innocent. That defendant has an absolute right not to testify, and you can't draw any conclusions or negative inferences about that the people have the sole burden of proof, all that kind of stuff. And so how to evaluate a witness's credibility, how to go through the facts and apply the law, just general things that judges charge in every one of their cases. And then there's the 20% that pertain to these charges, where he will read them the law on these particular charges. And that, I think the whole charge might take an hour and a half. And then the jury goes back and they deliberate, and you sit around and you wait. It's torturous. The parties have to stay near court, sometimes in court, and you're just waiting and waiting. We've been waiting. I've had juries out where you can hear screaming from the jury room and fighting, and I've had juries out where you hear nothing. Right? It's just they're in there, and if they want anything, like if they want to see evidence or if they have questions, what happens is you hear a buzzer. They buzz once, and then they send a note out, and the note will have what they want on it, and then the parties will, along with the judge, come up with what they think is responsive to the notes. So if they ask for example, they want the part of the testimony where Michael Cohen talked about a meeting with Donald Trump. And let's say that testimony is both on direct and on cross. Then they will have to find the portion of the testimony in the direct examination and in the cross examination that's responsive to the notes. Sometimes that takes time. It can take a half hour. It can take 45 minutes. And then once they isolate that in the record, the jury comes out and the court reporter will read that portion of the testimony to them. So that's really the way it works. It can be jury deliberations can take days. They can even take weeks, or it can take hours. It's really just depending on how the jury feels. But there's three possibilities. They can convict on everything. They can acquit on everything. They can hang on everything. I guess there's a fourth possibility, which is they could have a mixed verdict, meaning some counts are one thing and some counts are another, and some counts could be even a third. So there's a whole possibility of various verdicts here. Just they have to be unanimous if it's guilty or not guilty. If they can't come to the same, if it's not unanimous about a particular charge, then they hang. And that's how it works.
So what we'll be able to do here is comment on when the jury, if they have questions, if they're asking for additional resources or or things to look at. If we hear, Karen, you said it was one buzz is a question, two buzzes.
Yeah, it's supposed to be one buzz is a question, two buzz means there's a verdict. But juries are most people, this is the first and only time they've been on a jury. Sometimes they buzz twice. It's not a science. That's what it's supposed to be.
So we'll do our best to read the tea leaves as much as we can and give you perspective on when the jurors have questions, when jurors are asking for things, what that could mean. We'll try to give you the full panoply of possibilities because, as Karen and I both know, as practicing attorneys, or me formerly practicing attorneys and Karen practicing, even if you think you understand what the jury's means by a question, doesn't always mean that that's what they meant by the question. So there's only so much you could read into sometimes what their questions are and what they are implying, if they are implying at all. And sometimes it may be one juror who has that question and not all the jurors. And so, it's hard to fully know, if not sometimes impossible to know, even when you hear a question, where they could be leaning, although you could sometimes try to do your best to infer. Karen, what's your final word to everybody before we go?
Yeah, look, this is going to be a nerve-wracking time, and I think it's important that no matter what the verdict is, we respect it, and we respect the jury system, and that we just have to really, just have to accept. Unlike Donald Trump, who doesn't accept the peaceful transfer of power, he doesn't. When he loses, he's a sore loser. No matter what the jury does, whether they hang, whether they convict, or whether they acquit, I think everybody has to be just respectful of the jury system, of the jury, and this is one of the things that is the hallmark of the United States of America. This is our judicial system and our jury system. And it's so important. Every single case, whether it's state or federal, it doesn't matter what state you live in, they all have the exact same standard. It's in a criminal case, you have to prove the case, the prosecution, beyond a reasonable doubt. And by a jury of your peers, as the only person who can sit in judgment and make a decision about somebody's guilt or innocence. And so, unlike Donald Trump and some of his people who try to tear down our systems and make them illegitimate, I believe very much in it, just no matter what the verdict is. And so I just think everybody should remember that.
There you have it. We'll be back this afternoon updating you on everything that went down today. Karen, thank you. Thanks for watching. And, I think it's important that everyone be prepared for what this week could entail. It's a big week. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 3 million together, and make sure you subscribe to Legal AF on audio podcasts as well. Have a great day.
Enough! Send him to the big house, not the White House. Get the new exclusive tees, mugs, and stickers right now at store.midastouch.com. That's store.midastouch.com.